Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Common Sense Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Weems. This is the first episode of the Common Sense podcast here at Market Street Media. As a 10-year business owner, I'm looking to share some content which can help small businesses and owners specifically. Today's guest is one of my favorite entrepreneurs in the area. Today's guest is the Common People's Barber, Ryan White. What's up, Ryan?
Hey man, how you doing?
I am doing well. Um, I wanted to bring you down. We had you on my other podcast a couple of years ago with your wife, Janie, the Better Everyday podcast. And that day, just interviewing both of you guys, and we didn't really get to dig into um, your life as far as like the business aspect. I think you were in school at the time. You were hours away from graduating, and we were cracking up because you had no social media at the time.
Yeah, that's correct. Lots
Uh,
changed since then.
yes, I think what's the time difference from our last podcast? Maybe 2 years.
Yeah, maybe a year and a half. Like
Okay.
it's within 2 years though, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you've created this handle on Instagram. You've got high quality content that's going up.
Thank you.
You've got a client base that's growing and growing. I mean, you're putting out there when 1 and 2 appointments are available all of a sudden.
hmm
So I wanted to share with the customers your entrepreneurial journey today. So let's just pick up from where we left off a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay. So I think the last time I was on, I didn't have the social media, and I started it around Christmas time. I think it was actually Christmas that I made my first post, actually. Um, and I knew at some point that I was going to have to do that, and I'm glad that I made that jump. So when I started social media, um, I just had two goals. Like I just wanted to establish authenticity and provide like a visual for a variety of haircuts. So now it's really just shifted to what I'm doing now with those two things still in mind, but to add like a little bit of educational tips and stuff like that in there in between. I own my own business now. It's been 8 months, and I'm a high school teacher, obviously, during the day, and I teach business classes, and I have a business degree. And so it's been fun for me to finally get to practice what I preach in terms of doing this as I don't like calling it barbering on the side because it's still super important and a main focus for me. But yeah, being a mobile barber and just kind of finding my way in the industry that's there's a spot for everybody in. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I want to dig a little deeper on some of the things you talked about there. First of all, how'd you come up with the handle, the Common People Barber?
So I actually kicked around ordinary people to begin with. But I didn't think the word ordinary really like articulated what I cared about most in barbering, and that was like the unity and love and care for the people in my community and the people that I service. So I thought the word common was would give me a better articulation of I don't look to service one particular type or group of people. I want everybody to feel like we're common people, no matter the area we live in, our skin color, our religion, our value system, favorite team, political party, whatever. I strive to try to love everybody and show that to everybody. So, like our differences, I believe, are what make us a community. And the only way I know how to do that is if everybody feels welcome, like we're common people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Good deal. So I would call you you're the Uber of barbers here locally. So you are the guy that everybody knows. Hey, I call up Ryan. He's going to come to my house. He's going to make me look good. And it saves people time. We live in a world today where, Amazon and the DoorDashes of the world are the companies that we see growing and getting better. So what made you decide to come up with this idea of traveling to people's houses and making their life more efficient and giving them time back?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, just the simplest answer is it fit my schedule best, right? So, uh, as a teacher, I'm working during the day. And so it added some flexibility for me. It also filled a hole in the market that I saw when I was in barber school when COVID started. And I could see that there was going to be a hesitancy to come back to the barbershop after the fact. And we really saw how essential anyone in the hair industry was during COVID, even though we weren't labeled as essential. Of course, we really found out for the first time with the haircuts that came back after house haircuts that came back after COVID, how essential we were. And then also just starting a business without a whole lot of capital to find a way to eliminate overhead with booth rent in a shop, commission, all that kind of thing. So that combination of stuff, it just fit perfectly for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have come up with that idea had we'd not experienced COVID?
I think that it wouldn't maybe evolved as quickly. I don't know that I would be doing as much of it as I'm already doing. And if I did come to think of it, that I would not be as far along at this point had I done that.
So you're almost one of these businesses or methodologies that maybe like there was gasoline thrown on to this fire of your idea because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a silver lining in everything, and as a business owner, you've got to constantly pay attention to the pulse of what's going on with people in your community, your news, your world events, whatever, and making adjustments the whole time. It's constant adjustments. Know that. Yeah,
always,
absolutely.
So I want to talk about being a 31-year-old that is getting on social media for the first time. Like, how do you even, if a person was to look at your page right now, they would say there's no way he's gotten this good getting that late of a start in the game. And then secondly, I want to talk about the power of social media and how it's helped evolve your business.
I think to answer the first part, I'm lucky enough to have a business background and pay attention to those things enough, and have an understanding of them enough from a marketing standpoint to be able to figure it out, right? And I'm still figuring it out, but I think, and I'll talk about this, maybe if we get a chance to later, but stacking your skills as far as you go as a business owner, whether it's social media or any other skills you pick up along the way, you just have to be open and willing to always add to your arsenal, So that was what social media was for me. For the second part of your question, I guess the power of it for me has simply been it's allowed me to have so many opportunities that I would have never had even a remote shot at, because we do live in a digital world. Everything is online. So I think the biggest thing for me why I've had some success is I've not chased followers. I've chased a community of people that follow my page.
Mm-hmm.
Not all followers are created equal. And what I mean by that is if you have thousands of followers, but none are supporting your business or adding value to you as an individual or whatever, then they're just that. They're just a number. I would rather have a smaller base, but just have those people really, really locked into what you're doing, and a retention rate. You know what I mean? So that power has led from me being able to, be a part of different competitions, and I actually had an opportunity to cut on stage a month ago. I work with a shear company now, all these things that I'm not any better necessarily than anybody else as a cutter,
Mm-hmm.
but just finding a way to use this resource that you're talking about.
It's great. So in business, you're talking about how things are always changing. Mm-hmm. So what are your goals and how do you plan to evolve over the next couple of years?
I would say my biggest purpose and in putting together a future goal would be what Tim Ferriss, do you know Tim Ferriss? Mm-hmm. What he would call the new rich. And that we want to be profitable and successful and wealthy so that we can trade that for experiences, time, memories, and not stuff. Right. So eventually I would like to stop renting out my time so much. I'd like for my wife to not have to work nearly as much or maybe at all. And honestly, what's been on my mind a lot lately, and to add to the question, is I've thought about legacy a lot lately, and not because of me being remembered necessarily as by my name, but like by people that are part of my family or my network that never even meet me, but have a chance of success and happiness because of like groundwork or a foundation that I laid so they could be.
So give me an example there.
Like, just, I think that's the easiest way to what people say generational wealth is, but I think that term gets misconstrued a lot. So I just mean in terms of like, I want to, I want my kids or their kids to be like, hey, your great great granddad, these are still rental properties that he had, or these are, something to leave them, or something that puts them in a position to succeed long after I'm gone. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. I love it, man. So a new podcast here, the Common Sense Business Podcast. Obviously a play on words with the spelling of sense there. One of my goals with this podcast is to put information out there that is very simplistic, but can be groundbreaking and help business owners or entrepreneurs or whatnot.
Sure.
So when you think of like common sense business practices, or things that are your foundation, like what are some of those things?
I think the first thing would be having a way to track your finances. Like, that's an absolute must. And if you don't have a way to do that with a basic understanding of like taxes, write-offs, deductions, things like that, legal structures, how to set things up, without that, I think for any business owner, not just me, you're making it very difficult on yourself. I'll tell you something else I say all the time. And I think this might make your skin crawl. I'm glad you asked this, because I think this will make your skin crawl, but just hear me out. I think hard work is extremely overrated.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing over there?
I'm okay. I'm all right.
I think it's extremely overrated, but I think that soft skills, creativity, timing, decision-making are extremely underrated. And the reason I say that is because if I was in a room with anybody, or you in a room with anybody, and we told them to raise their hand if they know somebody that works hard,
Everybody,
most people know somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's not important. It's definitely a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so overrated because everybody can do that. It takes no talent.
Correct.
It takes no extra, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that to develop your soft skills in terms of your social, being able to talk to people online and in person, being able to zig when everybody else zags, being able to do things at the right time. A lot of times a decision is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just more or less when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people fail because they trade what they want now for the bigger goal of what they were building for later. Like, they fail because they'll trade all that for what they want right now. So like timing and decision making are so underrated. And you can be a hard worker and still screw those things up, and your business ain't gonna make it.
One of my business coaches says hard work's not the differentiator. It's doing smart work.
Yeah. Maybe I'll change my hard work is overrated to that. I like that. Hard work is a differentiator. It's not the differentiator.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not, because a lot of people can do it. I think for me, the power of my pricing strategy is everything. I have two prices: full price or free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw yesterday you're putting out there free haircut for someone that needs a little. How'd you put a little bit of hope? Or
I think I just said anybody that needs a victory in their life.
Yep.
Yeah, like I'm totally fine with helping. I want to help anybody that I can possibly help. And I'm good with doing something for free. I'm not okay with doing something for a discount, because for me personally, I'm not being true to myself, and I'm not knowing my own worth. I'm not knowing my own value. So honestly, if somebody were to really need a discount, I wouldn't give a discount. I just give them to them for free.
Mm-hmm.
Just two prices there. I think that's separator, because I don't know a lot of people that do that.
So one of my firm foundations at the gym is making sure everybody pays the same for a gym membership, because the last thing I want is you hanging out with Mitch and you're paying $100, but I'm giving it to Mitch for 70, and you guys talking about it,
and we're getting the same service.
Yeah, and so if I can't keep the integrity with something like that, then how are you going to view me as a business owner and someone that you're trusting your body with?
Yep.
Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, I'm with you all the way. I'm glad you feel that way. I mean, I think with knowing your worth and stuff, like I had a guy in barber school that he came to me, and the haircuts at barber school are like $8, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people come to the haircuts at barber school because they're $8. They don't come because it's like good, right?
Yeah.
Some do, but most of the time that's not the case. And he sat down, and I didn't ask him this, but one of the things he was like, "Hey, I came here because this barber I was going to was charging like $30." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and maybe we'll work together in the future, and that won't be a thing, And now I charge him like way more than $30, and he's still my client. So what that tells me is it was nothing to do with the price in the first place. It was that he wasn't finding value from whatever price he was paying to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can prove and know your worth to people, then you'll be able to retain more people.
So how did you find that price point going from an $8 haircut while you were still in school to going out on your own?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think this is a very underrated part too. Like when you first start your business, like your pricing, because to back up 1 second, I think that it's so hard to change price moving forward early on if you've set yourself up to lowball yourself to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did a lot of market research, to be honest with you. I looked at what everybody else was charging. I think the hard part for me was deciding when I was this only mobile barber. And when I say only mobile barber, I'm the only one in our area that has a residential barber's license. When the inspector came, he was like, "This is the first one I've ever done." There are other barbers that will go do a house call from time to time, just a one-off somewhere.
Under the table, yeah.
Yeah, but it was the first one, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. But that gave me an advantage because when there's nobody else setting the bar for that, you set the bar for that. So not only was that important because it gave me freedom to pick that price, but it also was so important because there's going to probably be somebody long after me talking about legacy that does that, and that sets the precedent for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want everybody to win and you want your community to do well and people that come after you to do well, even your pricing is important because it helps the next guy or girl decide on what theirs is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like a combination of all those things.
And like we were talking before we hit record button, time, regardless how rich you are, time is the limiting factor. We all have the same amount of hours in a day. So what you're doing is pretty cool in the fact that typically if a person's going to their local barbershop, they got a 20-minute drive, and then they've got the 2 kids are getting a haircut. So we're looking at an hour. Then they got another 20-minute drive. Well, now mom can cook dinner while you're cutting hair and saving time and money in some senses. I mean, if you look at gas prices these days.
Yeah, no doubt. And that even goes, like, it's the value there, like you mentioned, but that even goes back to knowing your finances and your taxes because, I've written off, even to this point of the year, about $1,000 worth of gas because I've tracked my mileage through an app on my phone. And, yeah, I mean, the value's there. I think another thing would be like to be as involved in as many social networks and as many networks outside of your gym or your barbershop or whatever your business is, not just because of gaining new clients, but it constantly builds your reputation as a brand. It constantly strengthens your brand. It affords you opportunities to maybe collaborate with other brands or team up where you both can benefit each other from different industries. I don't have, as a barber, one of my greatest things is I get to pick up the phone if I need to, and I can call and find the answer to any question. There is no question that I can't get answered because of the networks that I'm in. Now, I'm lucky being a teacher, having a baseball background, cutting hair, stuff like that. But like finding a way to be a part of as many social circles as possible, like that's everything.
I mean, you've never been a member. You've come and worked out a couple times with us, but you're still passively engaged with the Thunder Valley community. I mean, you have a nice, I would say 10 to 15 clients or connections at the gym.
Yeah. And that's and that's from what, like you said, being there 2-3 times, just maybe once a year or whatever. And it's not that I don't want to be there, but I make it a point to still like, and you as your business, to keep your name in everybody's thoughts or minds as far as your business goes, and how they view you from those times, especially if you're not around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
is so important, because you may not see them again for 6 months, 3
Right.
months, a year, whatever.
Well, good. So you'll be coming in to work out with us soon, then, is what you're saying.
Jenny missed her opportunity because we usually just work out on our anniversary together, and I don't remember what we had going on that was different, but it didn't work. So
Okay.
she'll have
Next
to
year.
wait till next year. Yeah.
Okay. I could nerd out on this kind of stuff all day. Do you have just one or two more that you want to throw out there, or was
I'll
that pretty much
throw
it?
out- Well, I guess the thing is just the constant skill stacking. Like, I guess I could mention that from earlier, of finding, just being creative to find different ways to make passive income. Or like for me, it's been photography, like with shooting pictures of haircuts for my social media, with it being a visual business. I've never picked up a camera in my life till like 4 months ago. But with the networks I'm in and kind of messing around on my own, like I've figured out at least some basic things, and that has directly allowed me to get more clients. So just stacking your skills, whatever it may be that pertains to your business, you have to be continually doing that.
Love it. So we can't go without talking about just building wealth and a plan for the future. So is there anything that you're doing or you're messing around with, or that you would want to share with the audience today?
I think like this is the most exciting part to me, because I think that, like, I'm working right now and have for well over a year now to involve Web3 into my business, with the conversation around cryptocurrency, NFTs, and things like that. And so I guess I should first say what Web3 is.
I was
Right?
going to say, this is Common Sense Business Podcast.
Yeah.
So let's dub it down. And
Okay, I can do that. When we're talking about web, I just mean the internet, right? So Web 1 would be the first version of the internet. Web 2, Web 3 now is where we're at. Web 1 would have just been like desktop based, with a browser. You consumed content. You saw information on a page. It was like same thing you'd find in an encyclopedia. You just went and looked up research or information.
America Online?
Well, I mean,
No.
it's the same. Well, I mean, just mean in terms of, I mean, it could be.
Okay.
In terms of, you had a research paper or
Okay.
the news or whatever, just basic info. You consumed content.
Mm-hmm.
There was no interaction of even like AOL or even anything
Okay.
like that at the time. No instant messengers, whatever. I would call that read. You're just simply reading the internet. Then Web 2 comes along, where you're reading and you're writing, where you're now creating content. Social networks come to be evolving. eBay, Amazon, centralized companies start to take center stage. Your identity now on the internet is with a username and a password, and you have apps, and your assets are your bank account. Um, the problem with Web 2 right now, and people don't even realize this without thinking about it, is that institutions and like corporations are winning and creators are losing. Um, because you have followers and subscribers, but you're giving away a large portion of that, or somebody else is profiting off your information or whatever. Web 3 is where we can consume the content, we're writing, we can create the content, but we also own, as creators, our own content, and it gives the power back to the creators, where a centralized entity like a YouTube, a Google,
Mm-hmm.
whoever, IG, is not owning necessarily your content. So the power is back to the creators. Your identity and your assets are no longer a username and a password, but they're a digital wallet.
Right.
You connect your wallet to a website, and that allows them, or allows that website to be able to interact with that website. The beautiful part of it too is it's anonymous, in terms of you're identified by a wallet number.
Mm-hmm.
You're not identified as Brad Weems.
Correct.
So now it's, believe it or not, and I won't go into it too much, it's actually safer and more secure And when we talk about some other cryptocurrency and stuff like that, like the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, has never been hacked and it's over 13 years, right? Bank accounts are hacked every day.
Right.
Despite what the media tells you, it's actually more secure in terms of because it's anonymous. So now we're at a place in Web3 where individuals are winning and they're not having subscribers and followers, but they have members, owners, and users that are part of what they do. So if I was going to give you like the three components of Web3, that would be cryptocurrency, NFTs, which that'll be the one I expand on. I won't expand on a bunch of the other ones because that's what interests me the most. I think has the most potential for businesses. And then the third one would be the metaverse, right? So cryptocurrencies are basically digital currency that are not held by a central entity like the Federal Reserve. An NFT is like a digital asset. That's how I would think of it, or a programmable certificate like a smart contract. And then the metaverse would be like a digital world. So you got digital money, digital assets in a digital world. So I accept cryptocurrency as payment. I think I haven't found anybody else in our area that does. I accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as payment. Because not just because like I really do value it and I think highly of it, but I'm trying to change the narrative from the same way when credit cards first came out and everybody was scared because people bought stuff on margin in the Great Depression and they saw that people defaulted on their payments, so credit cards were bad. But now I can imagine a world where credit cards were not part of what we do. And so I'm trying to change that narrative here too. So my line when somebody checks out is cash card or crypto. And it at least starts a conversation with every single person or puts a thought in their mind to at least go look up what that's about or ask me about it while they're in the chair or whatever. So just continually trying to change the narrative there. I'll pause for a second before I say anything else. Where like, if I hope that was digestible.
For me, yes. For maybe the audience, maybe not.
Okay.
So let's imagine we have NFT for dummies. Okay. Like, give us. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So
break it down.
I think with the NFT, the simplest way, well, it stands for non-fungible token, which means nothing to really anybody.
Right.
But essentially, they're smart contracts that provide value however the creator chooses. You can authenticate and financialize everything. And we're talking sports tickets, music, movies, memorabilia, experiences, whatever. So if I was to try to explain to you with an NFT, like as a smart contract or a piece of ownership of something, let's take like Kanye, for example. Okay. Let's say Kanye releases a new album. When he does that currently in Web 2, he does that through Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. Spotify takes 80% from their creators. Kanye, even as big as he is, gets 20% out of that Spotify deal, which to me is like mind-blowing. It's not even 50-50. Like, it's not even close. What if Kanye releases that as an NFT? And as an NFT allows people to buy a slice, just like a stock or a share of a company, to buy a slice of the album or the songs on the album. He is now supporting the community that supports him, and they are taking ownership. Now he's not losing 80% from Spotify, right? And we're in a position where we can do some really cool stuff with ownership. We can tie utility to it in terms of maybe if you own a piece of that NFT, you can go to one of the concerts for free. Or you can go to one of his fashion shows with the Gap drop. Or maybe you can get a backstage pass of this or that. Or maybe even as you support your community, McDonald's picks up the Kanye single, whatever, and uses it for their commercial. Now the royalties come back to the Kanye and the community because they own a piece of him.
Right.
So there's just so many possibilities. I think that example, like giving an example like that, helps kind of illustrate it a little bit more.
Perfectly, yeah.
Because those are type of things that are going on in our real world today that we could take advantage of. I think so many people with that, like, don't think about the possibilities. Like, you buy a ticket for as an NFT for an NBA Finals game, and LeBron hits the game-winning shot in Game 7, and now the NFT's value has went through the roof because now it's a piece of memorabilia that you can sell on the open market. I mean, you see what I'm getting at
Right,
here?
right.
Yeah,
There's
like,
more than just the
it's
experience.
more than just you bought the ticket. Okay, it's cool. You put it in a scrapbook that you and Dad went to the game and
Right.
the end. So we're capitalizing on the smart contract ability of an NFT,
Right.
and that's what excites me so much. Because I think with businesses and stuff, we need to be thinking about how we can implement Web3 into our business, or at least how it affects us. Whether you want to do it or not is up to you. But just to have the info to be able to do it is everything.
So with your business outside of accepting crypto, like give me an example that you could integrate it.
I'm gonna flip the table just a little bit.
Oh, no.
Because I'm gonna take my
Okay.
idea. I'm gonna take my idea. I won't make you answer it, but I'm gonna flip the table a little bit because if I practice what I preached earlier of knowing my worth, I'm not gonna give that away for free.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So I know this is your podcast to promote some business consulting and stuff, but I'll know my worth on that if somebody wants to reach out to ask me about that.
Okay.
So as far as just the Web3, we'll take the Web3. I'll be your Web3 consultant.
Okay.
Give me a finder's fee or something.
There we go. There we go.
I'll do it for a gym, like with what you own. The one thing I would do is I would sell lifetime memberships as NFTs. I wouldn't have necessarily month-to-month stuff as much event, you'd probably be a transition period of having some of both, but like I would do a lifetime membership as an NFT. I would sell it for very, very expensive. I would make it limited in supply, so you drive the price of it up. And I would add utility through maybe exclusive classes, amenities, free competition entries, member meetups, dinners you provide, merch, whatever you could even, if you own an NFT, allow them to have a voice or a vote in things that you do with the gym, taking ownership, building a community of what equipment do you want to see next, and only the people that own the NFT get to have a vote, or maybe a future location or a second operation or whatever of your gym.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many things you could incorporate with utility and add value to make the NFT worth this expensive price that you're paying. Plus, it's a lifetime membership. I think with the expense of that too, you can build in, and this I haven't talked about this. I think the scary part as a business owner would be like, okay, but I'm not having cash flow. If I'm just buying lifetime memberships, I'm not having cash flow. Here's what I would say to that. You have so much capital to begin with, though, that you can do some incredible things, right? It's why corporations offer stock.
Correct.
So they can do more things with it. McDonald's doesn't actually need Brad or Ryan's money.
Right.
But they can take it in a lump sum and build another location in another country.
Right.
You can also set up in smart contracts with NFTs to when it's sold, that the original creator can get royalties off of it every single time. So when you go to sell it to Mitch and Mitch goes to sell it to somebody else and somebody else, Brad gets 10% of that profit every single time, or whatever you decide to build into that contract. That would be another revenue stream for you. And I think that when customers and clients have more skin in the game, if I have an $8,000 membership, I'm coming to the gym, Brad.
Right.
I'm not going to miss.
Exactly.
And I'm going to bring somebody with me too.
Yeah.
So I think it has a potential to create a tighter knit community for you. And then even when the person that buys an NFT, if you are doing a good job with your gym, there's incentive for both, for them to support your gym and for you to grow it to be the best it can be. Because when they go to sell their NFT, now we're in a position where they can make money off of it. I also think about things like even just when people move away or they move to a different city and you signed up with a year-long contract for a gym and now you're stuck. And I don't know what your structure is, but a lot of gyms do that, right? You lock into a contract. Well, if I move somewhere else, I'm stuck. Like I'm still making those payments. You can't sublet currently. You're in Web 2. You can't sublet your gym contract.
You can sell your NFT to Mitch.
Yeah. And now I'm making money off of it and you're making royalties off of it and he's getting value from it. And it's not a waste for me to have done that. I think that I could go on and on about it, but just the possibilities, even just in a membership right there, I could talk about forever of
Right.
all the cool things you could do and the possibilities that are out there. So I just encourage business owners to look at it, find out which ways would fit for them. Even if they don't want to do anything with Web3 or NFTs, that's fine, but at least know about it so you can make an educated decision on what to do or what not to do.
And what's your vision? Like, how long do you think we're looking at before this becomes the new norm, in your opinion?
As crazy as this sounds, you may not feel like this in Johnson City, but it is the norm already in a lot of places.
It takes
does.
forever to always come to this area for some reason.
Well, it's just like anything else. Everything always happens in big cities first, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what it is, and then it gets here. I think people have to make the education for it more dummy proof. Like, I even think I have to do a better job of learning how to put it in layman's terms.
Right.
And I think that we all have to make it more digestible and that sort of thing. I think that as far as before it gets here, I guess the example I would use is, like you said, it just takes time. Like, before 1993, no online business was even allowed to occur. Like, no product was sold on the internet before 1993. But now we can't imagine without it.
Right.
And so the thing is, it just took time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest hurdle is like government regulation and stuff like that. But based on like what I know and what I'm looking at, they're not going to be able to regulate the bigger coins like Bitcoin. It's not going to be advantageous to them or whatever. But I think that's the biggest hurdle to jump is government regulation, probably.
Yep.
So
cool, man. That was some good examples you gave, and definitely educating our audience out there without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, if that wasn't great, or if you want to have other questions, they can reach out to me, and I'll be glad to try to break that down even further.
That's a great segue. I was going
Yeah.
to say, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, get to know you a little bit better, like, how would they do so?
So I'm on Instagram at The Common People Barber. You can reach out to Brad as well, or Mitch, and they can send me your contact that way too. If you're not on Instagram, I guess they could email the page. My email address is ryan.white@ecschools.net. They could email me there as well. So
cool, man.
It works.
Good deal. I appreciate you coming on as the first guest of the new podcast.
It's been fun. I'm glad that we get to talk about something that's just a little different.
Yeah.
I could talk about it all day, but it's a little different.
Right. No, we were sitting there talking beforehand. He's like, how long are you looking for this podcast to be? And I thought that was good because, like yourself, like, we could go back and forth, and heck, we did for 20 minutes before we even hit the record button. So
yeah, for sure.
But no, I appreciate you coming on today, and listeners, appreciate you tuning in. We'll be getting more content out there, provided you guys are seeing value. So we'll talk to you soon.